Hey, Warriors. Here we are again. Another Whiteboard Wednesday. Today is, what is today? Wednesday, March 9th. March 9th. There we go. Of 2022, just in case you're listening to this or watching this later in the future. Before I get started with today's Whiteboard Wednesday, I need to let everybody know our Spring Needed To Training Camp is coming up May 13th, 14th, and 15th of 2022, of course, right? There is a virtual option in a couple of days. If you're on my mailing list, an email will go out with information to the registration page. People can get themselves all signed up. If you're not on the email list, why not? Anyway, I'll try to post around Facebook and YouTube and all these other platforms and whatnot. So hopefully you can catch on. Okay. The theme for this year's camp is getting your head on straight. I know, doesn't sound all that martial arty, does it? Because everybody wants to do their cool ninja stuff or their cool kung fu moves or whatever. But and yes, we're going to be doing lots and lots of unarmed techniques, weapons, all kinds of things. But the big focus is on taking a look at some critical mindset kind of things. Everything from self-value to things that I see missing, right? Whether it's applying meditation and honing the three primary functions of mind and where they belong at different ranges, right? Relative to the danger or attacker, all kinds of things, right? So we're going to take a look at those things. So as soon as the information page is all set up, you get an idea of some of that stuff that's going on, right? So that's that. I'll leave that up here for just a little while, just in case anybody needs to scribble some notes or take a screenshot or whatever, okay? All right. So if you got the information ahead of time, right, then you know that we're taking a look at two aspects of training which are actually complementing opposites, but you can see certain styles of martial arts gravitating toward one or the other. And then what ends up happening is all this bullshit fighting back and forth between the two groups as to which is better and all that kind of stuff. But before I jump into that, what I want to do is take a look at something that I experienced during my own martial arts journey and I still see all over the place, which from a logic standpoint and having taken years to study things like brain wiring and neuropsychology and things like that and how we learn best and whatnot, right? And also trying to answer the question, why do so many adult students quit so early on in their training, right? A lot of martial arts instructors would have you believe that it's because they don't have any commitment, they're not really serious, right? I'm actually running an instructor training program right now at my dojo, and we have an online version of it. But one of the first things that instructor candidates learn is every class that I teach, every single one, whether it's virtual, whether it's on the floor or anything, right? The recognition or the thing that I have to recognize is that every class, a student is either one step closer to black belt or their next level of black belt or one step closer to the damn door, okay? And it's all based on how I teach. And this doesn't have anything to do with placating people or anything like that, but we have to recognize that people are looking for very specific things. And the biggest thing that most adults are looking for is real world martial arts based on their experience, or whether it's actual like real world kind of stuff, like they got tagged or they watched somebody else get attacked or whatever, or stuff that they see in the news and whatnot, right? If they come into the dojo and within the first 30 to 100 days, if they don't see what reflects that kind of thing, they're gone, right? Now, one camp has kind of set things up to where, see, it just, here's this knockdown, drag out kind of thing, right? The other camp tends to have a little bit more problem with it, but see, both camps end up losing people, but for completely different reasons. Before we jump into that, though, what I want to do is I want to take a look at this odd thing that goes on in a lot of martial arts schools or styles or systems, or the way certain instructors do it. And this is not me guessing. This is not a ninjutsu instructor slamming other people, right? Remember, I've trained in martial art after martial art after martial art, right? Since 1975. Shotokan, Goju-do, a couple of different Taekwondo approaches, Jeet-kune Do, a couple of forms of jiu-jitsu, all kinds of things, right? So in another class, I'll be taking a look at why I think we're doing it in a upcoming Kuden podcast. So if you're not on those, you need to be on those as well. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at, these different things that I've been involved in and why I gravitated in this direction. It had nothing to do with the fact that the dojo was closest to my house or work, and I'm just a lazy ass or whatever, and didn't want to do the extra work or take the extra time or whatever. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to argue for that style as being best, even though the reality as to why I'm training in this, it was just fucking convenient. Hopefully YouTube bleeped that out. And if not, oh well. Anyway, right? So here's this thing, right? There are these three kind of weird things going on, right? One style, one system, one school. And this is what I experienced, right? This is what a lot of my students have experienced. And then when they bump into what I'm going to show you today, like, holy shit, right? Some say I always felt like something was off. There was always a disconnect, right? And other ones look at it and go, well, that makes freaking perfect sense. Holy crap, no wonder it felt like it was off. Okay. So here's the thing, right? And if you've ever been in one of these systems, maybe this will resonate with you, right? Resonate, $50 word out of a $5 mouth. Anyway, I try to have a $50 mouth, but anyway, right? Okay. So follow me through a class, right? In a lot of these schools, there's a part of the class where you're working on forms. Okay. Right. Forms, often known as kata, right? Kata. Kata typically in the schools I'm talking about maybe other ones that I'm not talking about, right? Okay. They're typically done solo, right? Okay. You got this string of basics put together. And this is one of the kata models. And maybe I'll look at it at some point down the road if anybody's interested. But the way kata were formed and set up in different styles and different systems came from two different schools of thought. Okay. One was a battlefield kind of thing, right? And in between wars, in between battles, I had to remember things and keep my stuff honed, but I wasn't attached to a dojo. Actually, the dojo concept is fairly new, right? Given the scheme of things and how old martial arts are, right? But anyways, it was a way to kind of string basics together. And another one, a whole different approach. The one that we use, the kata it does mean form, but it implies a scenario. It implies a pocket in time and potential, as opposed to just kind of stringing things together so we can practice it and make sure that our skills are honed, right? So anyway, but there's this form part of class, right? Okay, so we're doing this stuff, and how many of our pieces are to it, right? And then, we'll be done with that, and then we'll have the self-defense portion of our our class, okay? And more often than not, that's like static, right? My partner grabs me or whatever, I do my little defenses or I do my little whatever, right? Okay. So here a partner gets involved, right? But it's normally this 1-step, 2-step kind of thing. But here's the thing. This looks nothing like or barely like that, right? What the hell, right? If this is the old stuff that was passed down with the science of how to operate, then why does that look completely different? But wait, there's more, right? Then we hit another portion of class, and sometimes all three of these things happen in a given class. Sometimes schools break them up where they're doing one or two of these things during one group of classes during a week, and then the second half of the week they're doing, whatever, right? But the third approach, right, is this sparring thing, right? Call it randori, call it whatever you want, right? Okay, sparring, right? Everybody gets the idea, right? Moving around with somebody else, put on our foam armor, right? And we go to town, right? We feel like we're actually fighting, right? But anyway, but wait, that doesn't look anything like that, and it doesn't look anything like that. There might be one or two punches, one or two stances, one or two kicks that somebody has as a favorite that they gravitate toward, and that shows up here a lot, right? Watch MMA fights, watch kickboxing things. I'm not knocking these things. These guys are good at what they do, right? My point is, it's supposed to be one system. It's supposed to be one approach to fighting or self-defense or whatever, right? And yet, that does not look like anything like that. This doesn't look like that. This doesn't look like... You get the idea? Right? I walked away from stuff like that feeling like I was learning three completely different things in the same dojo. And a lot of my students felt the same way when they were doing this. Okay. So now, are these important aspects to your training? Absolutely, right? But here's my question. If the system I'm learning, if the system that's been passed down is supposed to be rock solid, then what the hell? Okay? So in the schools that I've been initiated into, right? Been teaching for a long time, okay? All 9 of them, okay? And all of the CODU and schools that kind of back up. Oh, a little farmer's hat's tipping here. Oh, which is, that's screw it. Anyway, what you recognize is that the forms, the kata, with rare exception, right? The forms are the self-defense moves. Okay? With rare exception, there's always 2 or more practitioners going on at the same time. Right? Obviously, if we're dealing with multiple attackers, then we have more than 2. But you've got somebody who's playing the role of the attacker. You got someone playing the role of the defender. It doesn't matter if it's punching, kicking, grabbing, throw counters, whatever. Right? They're the same thing. Okay. Now, can we, without, let's say we don't have a training partner at the moment, right? We had one, they're sick, they moved, their mom died, their cat died, they're in mental distress, they can't do this anymore, whatever, right? And here we are, okay? And we decide, contrary to the other 95% that assume that because I don't have a partner, I can't train, I can't do anything, and that becomes my excuse, okay? I decide I'm going to train anyway. So what I do is I take the form, right? Seion, Shihaku, Tangeki, whatever, right? And I practice it from the role of the defender, right? And I practice going through the moves in a shadow boxing kind of form, right? At some point down the line, we've got another Whiteboard Wednesday where I'm going to be breaking your training down into 4 pillars, okay? And all of them need to be done, right? But anyway, right? So we could be doing it from that direction. We can also do it from the direction of the uke, right? The attacker, the techie, right? So that we can understand kind of how that's happening. And then if I were on that side and somebody did something like this to me, how would the break fall happen? How could I roll? How could I escape? How could I counter? Those kind of things, right? Training can always be done in some format. But you see the difference, right? Where the form group, right, has this string of basics that then has to somehow be converted or something has to be inserted. What a lot of schools did a bunch of years ago, there was this big survey. When was this? Late 80s, early 90s, maybe even a little bit later than that. Big survey because all these martial arts schools had a hell of a time keeping adults. Then the mindset became, well, the money's in the kids, right? Really? I've got more adults than I have kids, right? But why are they quitting? And what they found out was most adults weren't seeing enough real world self-defense up front, right? So in their head, the thought was, this place doesn't have what I'm looking for. No matter how much the teacher was trying to justify it, doesn't look like 20th, 21st century, Western kind of stuff, right? So something had to be adapted. And what a lot of these schools did was they went out and bought a self-defense program and plugged it in to their school training. Interesting, right? Okay. So we're not selling enough cars on the used car lot. So let's sell golf carts. Let's sell dirt bikes. It's still a vehicle, dude. Yeah, but what's the connection? Okay. Because the people that are looking for cars might be looking for a truck, might be looking for an SUV, might be looking for a sedan, whatever. But they're probably not looking for a damn golf cart. Maybe. Okay. It might work, but it's not the same, right? So I can break it out, but they come packaged this way. So then what happens when sparring, right? What do we do with that? Because that's like that experiential, in the moment decision-making under pressure, that kind of stuff. That's what sparring's all about, okay? Anybody that's made it a contest and it's about winning and losing and not about the personal development and the in-the-moment skill sets, brain wiring, body mechanics, physiological responses, and all that kind of stuff that have to be ingrained and wired, just like any other kata, is missing a huge part of the training, right? Because what I see when most people are sparring, right, it looks like 2 6-year-olds in a sandbox slap fighting, right? Not that they're not doing their thing, but I'm focusing on me trying to get him, and he's focusing on him trying to get me, and it just turns into a slugfest, as opposed to what this is supposed to be, a scientific, logical approach to handling somebody coming at me. How am I controlling him, me, the bubble, right? It's just, sorry, maybe I'm the only one on the freaking planet that thinks about these things this way, right? But there should be some kind of congruency instead of it looking like, let's toss that in, let them have work on that. Oh, and this is the traditional stuff, so we've got to make sure we're doing that. Otherwise, we can't use the cool name, right? And then, oh shit, yeah, let's toss some tag in there, right, or whatever, right? I'm not knocking you guys that are doing this kind of thing. I just want you to think about it, right? So the forms are the self-defense, right? Oh, by the way, this is a part 1, kind of an approach to sparring. So for those of you that sign up and jump into our Friday virtual training, we're going to be looking at level 1, right? I have a 5-phase system to move people through to make sure that they're ingraining their techniques into everything, so that's what comes out when they're sparring. That's what comes out when they're actually fighting or defending, right? Not something that looks ish. Okay, so that's where this branching off kind of thing comes from, right? So instead of doing 3 what look like completely different damn things, right, and calling it the same martial art, right? Instead of doing that, how about if we look at something from a different perspective, right? How about if we look at 2 what appears to be opposite approaches to training, okay? And you'll be able to think about different martial arts or different systems that fit into these, right? So we have what I'm going to just generally call the Kata approach, right? So the Kata approach, Kata means form, right? For us, it means example, right? But same thing, right? There's a bunch of different synonyms that kind of go in there, right? But there's this structure, right? Some people gravitate toward it, right? So we have Kata. We have these Kata with names. They go into a specific scroll, right? It's teaching very specific lessons, that kind of thing, right? But there's a lot of people that don't like this because, well, that just looked like prearranged dancing, dude. That's never going to work on the street. As is, maybe. Exactly as is, probably not. Okay. When we're thinking about Kata, what we want to think about is like the delivery van that's bringing the furniture that we bought to our house. Okay. So it's going to pull into the driveway, and then you or some other people are going to unload the stuff and move it into your house and put it where you want it, right? In context, so that you can use it and it's functional for you as is, right? So the truck can be seen as the Kata, the furniture, the lessons that are being delivered by this thing, okay? Now, do some people bastardize this and assume that they're going to use this exactly as is on the street? Yeah, but that would be like believing that you're going to buy the furniture, they're going to load it onto a truck, they're going to drive it to your house, they're going to drive through the damn front door and park it in the living room, and since you bought living room furniture, now you're going to climb onto the truck and sit around on the living room furniture with it still staying in the truck, okay? So I get that side too, right? We have to be careful, okay? But Kata, that's one approach, right? I'll put this little verses in here because these guys like to get their Johnsons in a frickin' tiss. And try to, and then they start to argue back and forth, like which is better, karate or judo? Depends on practice. There's all kinds of variables, practitioner and who can control the range and all kinds of shit, right? So anyway, right, Kata, and then Waza, okay, the Waza approach. Now, a lot of people that are using these things may not call this Waza, right? Waza, for those of you who've been training in this art for a while, may think of this like a henka, like Shinden Fudo-ryu uses the Waza concept more than the henka concept, right? Kata, form, example, right, can also mean technique. Waza can also mean technique, but Waza is more specifically like an action, okay? So if we think about the Kata approach, Waza, actions, right? Here's a Waza. Here's a Waza. Here's a Waza, right? Any single action that I can perfect and get really, really good at, right? Okay. Some people would call them kihon or kihon no kihon, whatever. Okay. I'm not splitting hairs. These are built from these. individual Waza make up a kata. Okay? So, but the Waza approach is more adaptive. It's principle and concept based, and that's what creates the form. Okay? So it's very adaptive and things like that, right? Kata approach tends to be more rigid, right? This is the official thing. Don't screw it up. Okay? So there can be this battle, right? This is the guys that are like want to ground and pound, and you can't come up with like pre-grained dance moves, man. A fight's too fluid, and yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, but how do I understand logic, right? How do I understand what past masters were trying to convey to me if I don't have something, right? It's can you see it? Yeah. So it's the mandala approach. Mandala means perimeter or boundaries, right? It gives me this box to operate within, so I'm not all over the damn place, right? So I can extrapolate very specific lessons, okay? So what I want to take a look at is very quickly, because we don't have tons of time here, very quickly, the benefits of each, okay? The benefits of each, right? So kata, okay? Kata gives me a dependable, repeatable sequence to produce the same outcome. It's like a musician, okay? If somebody's going to play, they're in an orchestra and they're going to play the Blue Danube, they better play the Blue Danube. They better play the Blue Danube or whatever the song is. Otherwise, they're going to be out of sync with everybody else, okay? That's called dissonance, right? Where things aren't meshing up, right? So gives me dependable and reliable, right? The cool thing about kata, right, is if I'm making a mistake with a given move or an angle or whatever, right, this is repeatable. Waza, not so much, because shit's being made up on the fly. And over here, I have to hope that I remember the new thing I want to do when that little problem area pops up and I'm in the moment to be able to do it. If not, it's going to take longer to fix that problem. Okay. Now, what a lot of these guys do is they'll pull something out like that and they'll drill the little thing to fix the problem. They just created a damn kata. Whether they want to admit it or not, they created a preset sequence so that they can work through a problem. But either way, typically this doesn't have it, right? We're just going to jump on each other and like smack ass, right? This one, right, very structured, okay? I want you to think of kata from two perspectives, and I give this to my students on a regular basis. Two different definitions or two different ways of looking at it, but I give it to them at different places, right? Okay. So one, typically in the beginning, but might have to be a reminder later on for people to get a little over cocky, right? Is kata are expert role models or expert models. They were created by experts who survived battles, and they were put together to convey a very specific lessons about timing, angling, options, those kind of things, right? Situational control, those kind of things, right? So here's the thing. If I want to be an expert, there's my models, okay? They're examples. They're initiations. They're places to start, but it's an expert role model. It wasn't put together by Joe Jack shit down the street who wanted to look cool, so he opened up a martial arts school or a self-defense class, right? Doesn't know jack squat about what it's like inside of a fight. And so, but he's going to convince other people that he knows these little cool tricks and moves. Okay. These things were built and passed down for centuries. And the reason why we still know they work is because anything that was tried on a battlefield by somebody and it failed died with them. The only thing that these groups are training in, again, the models, right? With attacker, defender, not necessarily just the string of skill sets. Not saying they're not, just it's a different approach, right? The things that have survived are the things that have worked again and again and again and again and again. Those are the things that we're teaching, okay? The things that didn't work again and again and again, or they were kind of random, don't know, okay? So first definition is expert role model. I want to be an expert. Here's models put together and passed down by experts, okay? So if I'm the thing for students here is if I'm ever having a problem and I can't make the technique or the kata work, it's way too many people jump to henka. They jump to variation way too quick, okay? If you can't do the model, it's not the model. the model's not broken. The model's been working for centuries. It's something you're not doing or something you're doing that's gumming up the system. I don't want to trigger anybody too badly, not that I don't already. Anyway, right? So expert role models. Later on, right, intermediate advanced stages, a kata should be seen as a bad habit breaker. Because again, if I can't do the kata that's been passed down for centuries, right? That's worked again and again and again. If I can't do it, I must be doing something wrong. And here's a hint. It's not the thing that you were doing when the mistake occurred. 99.9% of mistakes start a move or two or three back from the point where you recognize that the whole shit thing fell apart. Okay? It's not where it happened. Okay? Karma's just playing itself out. I made a mistake back here. I didn't correct things on the way, so now it's getting worse. Okay? So stop looking to fix your mistakes where it looks like. I'll give you an example. Let me back up here a little bit, right? Hopefully you can see this. I might have to move the camera. Let's do this. Okay? Hopefully you can see this because we got black on purple, black on black, and all that. Okay? Hopefully my chain's not... right. So anyway, right? Often, I know you can't see my foot, but people will have their knee turned in. Okay? Where it's in a bad place, right? So because the knee is supposed to be pointing where the toes point, because that's natural alignment, right? What people will spend just a shit ton amount of time doing is trying to get this knee aligned, okay? So I'm going to position my body so that naturally occurs, okay? See it? Okay, it's turned in, okay? What you can't see, oh, shit, let's show you. Right? So this is correct alignment, right? So when I squat, the knee points at my toes. If my knee's doing this thing, then either I got this happening, right? I'm trying to go forward, or I got this happening, right? And I'm trying to point it forward. I can't even do that, right? This way. But if this is in the other option, right? I'm gonna make that happen. See it? Okay. It's not a front leg problem. It's a rear foot alignment problem. I'm going to move my foot so that my toes point closer to the wall. Watch what happens. Right? I'm going to move my foot back into, for me, a natural L. Watch. As soon as I sink and relax. Right? I'm going to turn my foot in so it's more pigeon-toed kind of thing. Right? This doesn't work for me because that now turns everything out and rolls my foot on the side. Okay? So the mistake is hardly ever where you think it is. It's hardly ever where you think it is. Okay? So it's the same thing in kata, right? But this gives me the big benefit to kata is here's this example. It's not just all over the place, right? We're not trying to the ones who do really well over here are super intuitive, right? They're more tactily aware, that kind of thing. Not tactically, tactile, right? Sense of touch, right? Okay, they're more intuitive, that kind of thing, right? They made great wrestlers. They're more conceptualizing in their brain, all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, over here, these folks need some step-by-step. They need some structure and all that, which is perfect, right? But the big benefit of kata is that it provides a form so that if I'm making a mistake, I can recreate the conditions and the steps and everything exactly the same way every time. So I should be making the mistake the same way every time. So now it's easier to fix because the machine works the same every time. Can you imagine if the engine in your freaking car, right? One day I go out and it's an internal combustion engine. The next day I go out and it's an electric motor. The next day I go out and it's a turbojet engine that goes on an airplane, right? And you're going to take it to somebody to fix. Who? How does it work? What's it? Right? So there's benefits to this. There's also a downside to this in that it's harder to vary this. Only the most intuitive are going to be able to see within it and pull things out. Intuitive student, or you got a really intuitive instructor who's reaching in and pulling things out and passing it on. Cool stuff. Otherwise, right, these are these sacred, sacrosanct things that you don't change, right? Don't fuck with it, right? That kind of thing. Waza, way open, right? That's like the MMA guys, the jiu-jitsu guys, boxers, whatever, right? You've got some individual basics, right? Like I can stand at a bat and practice punching. I can have a partner hold things up so I can practice speed things, right? Because that's what I'm working on. I can practice footwork. I can practice moving, that kind of thing. But when we come together, right, I'm trying to figure it out on the fly. Okay, great. So huge benefit for Waza, right, is I can't have my head stuck on some kind of preset movement. And every time I think ahead, like if he does this, I'm gonna get my ass handed to me, right? So the cool thing about this is it's extremely adaptive, right? It's moment to moment. My mom always said I should be a doctor. Some of you guys already know this, right? Okay, moment to moment, and it allows me to practice responding under pressure. Right? In the moment, I don't have time to be thinking about things or whatever. I need to learn very, very quickly this whole go with the flow thing and taking advantage of options that open up. This guy, since he's going step by step, can tend to start, stop, find an opening, go, or whatever, right? Over here, this guy recognizes that, like, I've got a quarter to half a second when a target is lined up with a weapon, and I've got a quarter to half a second to recognize it and engage with it. So I have to be able to move quickly without wind up and all that kind of cool stuff, right? Right. The problem on this side is if I'm making mistakes, again, you know, me and somebody else is just going to jump out there and we're going to go back at it again and whatever. But if I'm making mistakes, it's really, really hard to duplicate the same mistake because we're not doing a preset pattern, right? Like if I were playing music, right? If I'm playing music, the Kata Approach, the music is, I'm in an orchestra, I'm in a band or whatever. Here's the music. We're playing this song, right? If I'm messing up this little note combination, okay, I can fix that, right? It's easier to fix because I always know that it's fixable, right? This is improv. These guys have to be really, really good, not just in playing their instrument, but tuned to ear, and whatnot. So when the other guys are playing, the notes that I'm playing fit, right? There's harmony, not dissonance, right? The notes go together, right? You don't end up with this weird kind of thing where you go, oh, that doesn't work, right? It's kind of like a DJ that's playing a series of songs, right? And then they're playing two that they go together, okay? They kind of match, and all of a sudden, like they throw in something that's like way off, right? We call that being able to mix the music, right? Anyway, so here are these two things. And very often what happens is people gravitate toward one or the other. And then people tend to pick things like they pick religions, right? That's what I already believe in. So I'm going to gravitate over there. Okay, well, okay. That'll make you good at what you're already good at, right? Or allow you to get good at something that you're already natural at. But what about the other half of the training? What about the logic that the other side is providing? Okay. And that's where what we want to do, if we can see these things, where we got Kata on one side and we've got Waza on the other side, right? Our training should be bringing them together, right? We should be working one, other, that kind of thing to bring these things together so we get a synthesis of both sides, right? We get the benefits of one, benefits of the other, right? Without the baggage, okay? Because the problems in one are fixed by the other. The problems in one are fixed by the other, all right? So here's what we tend to do with things, right? And again, next week, right, I'm going to be going through our 5 phases of sparring practice, but and sparring, again, is in this realm of Waza, right? So what we tend to do is, let's say we have kata, we have skills, or whatever, right? This kind of thing, right? So you're learning some at a certain level, right? You're learning plus, let's say, counter strikes. Some other skills are a little bit more complicated, right? So it's just flow, right? And then you're learning the technique plus the counter strike plus the counter attack, right? that kind of thing, right? And then, some more skills. The skills are tend to be drills that have to do with like timing and response and things like that, right? But anyway, right? So these lead one to the next, okay? But this is still kata based, right? So when we're doing sparring, right, or Waza training, and for us, Waza training takes up two different places, right? One's over here in the skills as well, okay? So we're breaking these things down so we can do the individual pieces well, right? But our goal, and what I think everybody's goal should be, is if the system that you're learning, I don't care if it's Goju-ryu, Ninjutsu, Budo Taijutsu. Notice I didn't say Bujinkan. Bujinkan is an organization, right? I know everybody's turned it into this system or style, but Ninjutsu doesn't have a style, right? People need to start listening to the lessons that Hatsumi Sensei passed on and stop coming up with whatever. Anyway, all right. So what we need to do is be able to, again, synthesize these things, right? So we have these models, right? Let's borrow a skill. Ichimonji no kamae, right? And we're doing it, right? Ichimonji no kamae, Ichimonji no kata, because Ichimonji no kata is an example of how to apply Ichimonji no kamae, right? That plus skills, right, is evasion. Long range defensive angling evasion, right? Or 90 degrees or whatever it is, right? Okay. Sparring for us always comes after you learn the lesson, okay? So here's this thing. And then I want to do a block of study where I learned it. Now I want to play around with being able to apply it when things are coming at me that I don't know. The thing about kata training also is that I know what attack he's throwing. Can we mix it up a little bit? Yeah, but it's not as free flowing as sparring, right? So when he's moving around, so instead of doing this kind of thing where he gets all set and you're standing there in Shizen or you're standing in your kamae, right? And he punches or grabs or kicks and you do X, Y, Z thing. Okay, it's cool, right? People like to stop there because we don't want anybody to see that maybe I don't have all my shit together, right? What this allows me to do is now my partner's not going to go, ready? And then they're just going to throw this thing, right? My partner's going to move around here. They're going to try to find, just like a bad guy, they're going to try to find that perfect avenue of entrance, right? And they might throw a punch. They might throw a kick. They might throw a grab, right? They might throw a hook. It might be straight. It might be an uppercut. Might be a roundhouse, whatever, right? Because that's what I'm going to have to deal with out there, right? And I have to figure out on the fly, right, how to get my head in the right place so that I'm not guessing. I'm paying attention to what's coming in. I can recognize the space where it's safe and stay out of the spaces where I'm going to get nailed. Even if he misses the first one, I can't make it easy for him to get me with the next follow-up shot without working for it, right? So I learn this pocket, and then I practice that so that I can do this 8-9 times out of 10 at least 80% full speed correctly, right? This way. Given that under the adrenal response on the street, things are going to be a little rough around the edges, but I need to be able to hit my mark. I need to be able to do the same thing here that this thing is teaching me. And then, right, while I'm working on this, I'm learning a new set. Well, it's not a new set, right? Ichimonji no kamae. Maybe we're doing it with Doko, or we're doing it, whatever. We're doing another model that's close. We're doing Shiaku, Tangeki, Kyogi, whatever, where there's a punch and then some kind of distractive high, middle, or low follow up to set them up, and then the opposite counter, right? Okay, so then we're learning that, right? But and again, next week I'll go into this a lot, but now the extra skill is this next piece, right? Not just the kamae evasion and this next piece, right? So I've learned that. So on the tail end of that, see how this is a little bit lower, right? So it's coming after, right? And then using sparring and drills and things like that, right? Now, again, he's moving around, doing whatever, right? I want to be able to shift and do that next thing that's a part of the flow until I can do it 9 times out of 10 at least 80% speed, exactly the way it's supposed to be freaking used. This is the logic. Do you see where this is going? Instead of having forms and then self-defense that looks nothing fucking like that, right? Or marginally like that, and then sparring that looks like what? Instead of having this, right? What we have is a system that builds so that the logic and the mastery and all that's been passed down that we all think is the best thing since fucking Kool-Aid, we can actually do that when the shit's coming at us, right? As opposed to, well, I'm going to do Tangeki, I'm going to do whatever these things, right? And then, yeah, we'll see, that's kind of too slow for the kickboxer. If you think Ichimonji is too slow for a kickboxer, then I suggest you don't understand Ichimonji, okay? There's more than just putting your freaking body in a pose. How is your spinal line? What kind of energy is going on? How are the muscle adjustments and contractions, changing things, right? What about that feeling where there's always it's a feeling like there's a string pulling through your head attached to the top of your spine that kind of creates this lift no matter how low I am so that I can move, right? So that I can shift, right? My feet are always moving like normal walking and not... It just amazes me that people, they walk like this into the dojo. Everything's good, right? And then they freaking do their techniques like this. Anyway, right? So what we're looking at is bringing these things together. Anyway, so again, I know big picture kind of thing, right? Benefits to both sides, but if we can use them in a more logical, intelligent way, we can get the benefits of both worlds, maximize our skill proficiency, and end up on the other end of the training process with the skill sets that people who lived and didn't die, early enough, right? That pass this stuff down, that we can actually do this stuff that we think is cooler than Swiss cheese. Okay, so you get the idea. I keep throwing, these little similes around and stuff. Anyway, but this is the idea. And again, this is part one, right? This is part one of this whole idea with this sparring thing. Part one, right? Part one of this whole sparring thing. Next week, I'm going to break down the 5 levels. Okay, I'm just going to use one model and we're going to break it down so you can see what I do with folks, so that at the other end, they're using Budo Taijutsu and not Ish. They're using, or they don't have to be, if you're watching this and you're not in Bujinkan, you're not a practitioner of ninjutsu, I don't give a Ryan Flat's ass, whatever your thing is, you're going to be able to do that thing without looking like a robotic kata performer, right? And without just looking like a fucking wrestling mess, like 2 guys that have never trained and done anything, and you just got to turn it into a slugfest or a wrestling match and, come out of it going, yeah, I'm the best that ever was. No, you just won that day, Bubba. Okay? I'm not saying you're not good, but you just won that day. You both did the same shit. Where was the logic of this whole system that you spent time, effort, and a butt ton of money learning? I apologize to the people that are freebie seekers and somehow still came out on the other end without a mentor. But either way, right? You're just uber intuitive, and that's okay, right? But time, effort, money, resources, right? Trying to explain shit to family and stuff as to why you need to do this and all that kind of stuff, right? That you actually have an end result that you set out to get, and not something that somebody else convinced you was, no, this is really how it's supposed to be done. Okay? So if we run this process, the forms are the self-defense, right? They're the same. And the sparring uses the same skills, the same strategies, the same tactics, right? You ever go to a martial arts tournament, right? The only time that people look like they're doing something completely different is in the forms category. You get them out there on the mat for sparring. I know there's, little kicks and nuances and things like that. But for the most part, with the exception of uniforms, tell me that 95% of what everybody's doing doesn't look like what everybody else is doing. This is ninjutsu, guys, for God's sake. If you're doing it like everybody else, one, they already know what you're doing. They already have something to beat it. 2, if they can see what you're doing and it looks like what everybody else is doing, it ain't ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is never what it looks like. Ninjutsu is never whatever you're doing looks like. That's the trap. Okay? Anyway, that is what it is, right? I'm going to take me and my dangly little, chain that I forgot to take off my belt. This is the way to carry it, by the way. Okay? I keep seeing people do this kind of thing where they loop it around, right? And they put it through the loop, and it's hard enough to do, right? And then they hold it like this. You know what the problem with this is? You can't draw the damn thing off your belt when you need it. You got to fumble around. It's like a woman trying to find a weapon inside of a purse. Okay? Buy a purse that allows you to keep the weapon in the same place so that you can draw it. Okay? Goes in and loops over. It'll stay right there. Okay? That way, when I need it, I just grab, pull, and I'm set and ready to go. Okay? Anyway, freebie. Okay? All right. If you have any questions, any comments, or whatever, you guys, whatever platform you're on, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, post some comments. I try to get to them. Sometimes there are literally tons, and sometimes my freaking schedule is just all out the wazoo. Hopefully you can make it to spring camp, May 13th through the 15th, virtually or live. We always prefer live, right? But I understand if you're worried about Cootie Central, then do what you need to do, right? But hopefully you can make it for that. Fall camps in September 30th, October 1st and 2nd. And then we've got a New Year's kickoff thing, January 2023, January 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? So I think it's the weekend after New Year's weekend, right? So it's the second weekend, whatever, right? Anyway, those are our big things for the year. And of course, we have other things going on and all that. Anyway, that's it. I got to get prep for instructor training because I'm blowing things up. I don't mean like destroying it. I mean, I have to build staff. So questions, comments, or whatever, shoot them in. And if you have something that I think would make a really, really good Whiteboard Wednesday topic, by all means. There's the link at the bottom, right? See it right there, okay? Every Friday, right? 6 p.m. to 7:30, 7:15, 7:30, whatever. Here at the dojo, we have a master's class, and it's always related to the Whiteboard Wednesday topic. So on this Friday, we're going to dive deep into this, and we're going to take a look at just some basic skills and then how to drill them from a sparring context, from a Waza context to get really good at them, right? So again, I don't do free webinars anymore. This was already 50 minutes. So this is my contribution to the world, right? Big picture view, take it, use it. It's a complete lesson. But if you want to dive deep and you want to get examples and all that stuff, you can always jump on. It's $4.99 for a damn class, right? Give it a shot, right? You can always ask me questions. We do it via Zoom and stuff, right? So you can ask questions and all that. And we're going to take a look at that way. Again, next week, we're doing all 5 phases, all 5 levels from base sparring all the way up to when you hit phase 5 in my process, you will look like what everybody else looks like when they're sparring, but you're going to look like you're doing the damn martial art you've been training in. Okay. That's the difference. You're not going to look like you're doing something completely different. All right. That's it. Join us on Friday. Like I said, it's $4.99. You go to that page right there. Take care of it. Get yourself booked in. We'll make sure you get all the access information. And even if whatever happens, right? I got a guy named Jeff that lives on the West Coast, right? Work schedule just freaking keeps getting in the way, right? Jeff signs up, and then don't they just freaking screw with his work schedule? They're all recorded, right? You get lifetime access to each of the lessons that you get, right? So no harm, no foul, right? All right, that's it. I'm going to stop talking. I got to get to other things because I got other talking to do today. And I will talk to everybody again next week, Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, our Kuden podcast. Next Wednesday, 3 p.m., unless something, world tilts in a different direction or whatever, or some shit happens, right? That's when these things will happen. Hopefully I'll see you then. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, share the stuff around. I mean, I'm giving it away, right? Share it around to other people who you know will actually appreciate it and be able to use it, right? Because you know what? I don't do well with flaming comments and things. And I don't mean I get into a pissing contest with people. I mean, I don't do them, right? So don't share it to people that think they already, are God's gift to whatever, okay? I'm not having a conversation with anybody that has less experience or less time in the art, or that has gravitated to one side or the other, and that's their approach. Or they need to be the guy. I'm going to look at them and go, you're the guy. Okay? All right, that's it. Share it, like it, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next week. Be safe. Talk to you soon.